Let's start with Andy Brassell. Here are the fixtures for Group F, and there might be an advantage, which we'll come to, on being in Group F. We start, though, June the 18th, Turkey, Georgia and Portugal, Czech Republic, and one footballer stands out in this group, obviously.
I guess so, although I think one of the key points of Roberto Martinez's Portugal tenure so far is that the Cristiano Ronaldo question is not just suffocating everything else that Portugal do. It's clear that he's very nice to have still scoring goals in the Saudi Pro League, of course. They will use him. He won't start all the games, I don't think. And this team is no longer Cristiano Ronaldo's team. It's probably Bruno Fernandes' team. But they've got quality all over the pitch. And it's interesting to hear Martinez talk recently about, yes, Ronaldo and Pepe are in the squad, but you need that experience in the dressing room. So no guarantees for them in terms of them being starters. You know, you look at a centre-back partnership that might be made up of Ruben Diaz and Antonio Silva of Benfica, or Gonzalo Inácio of Sporting. They've got quality all over the pitch. They've got a much better goalkeeper now in Diogo Costa. And a little bit like France, a few of the things that they did in not quite getting there in World Cup 22 have left them in a much better position for this tournament.
They start against the Czech Republic. We know Thomas Souček very well. Who else should we look out for in the Czechs?
Well, Patrick Schick did really well at the last Euros.
Scotland will remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's had a really interesting season because he started the campaign injured, so missed a big chunk of it. Victor Boniface was scoring lots of goals for Leverkusen in his absence. But then he came back, Schick started scoring goals in cup competitions. Boniface got injured and then Schick came back in. So he's got that sharpness, he's got some goals behind him. It's been part of this incredible Bayer Leverkusen season. So he should have that nice little sweet spot between not being overplayed but not being completely rusty. So he's the key man for them, really. In the opening game, Turkey we're used to seeing in these stages. Georgia, we're not.
Yeah, and of course there will be a lot of pressure at home on Turkey because it's a football-mad nation. They've got a really good coach in Vincenzo Montella, who's not an overseas coach who's just been parachuted into a random job. He managed in the Turkish Super League before. He did pretty well. He handled some big personalities like Mario Balotelli, of course, while he was there. And the thing about Montella, a bit like when Sven-Göran Eriksson first arrived with England, he's at games all the time. He's building relationships with the clubs, with the coaches, with the players, and that's absolutely invaluable because Senor Gunes, who's such an experienced coach and has won the Super League a couple of times with Besiktas, he didn't really show that leadership when we go back to the last Euros, and that was a huge problem for them because they look really, really disorganised. In terms of the raw talent that they've got, I'm not massively convinced this time. Even though Hakan Çalhanoğlu has had an absolutely sensational season with Inter and he'll be a big power for them, I just wonder who's going to score the goals on them because a lot really lands on the shoulders of Kenan Yildiz, the teenager who's looked good for Juventus, but he's still a teenager.
And they will have lots of support because lots of
so much
Turkish heritage people in Germany. Georgia have one standout star, but not only one man who can play.
Yeah, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia is the key to the whole thing. Kvaradona, as he was called in Naples when he helped them win the Scudetto. And he plays a slightly different role. He plays that more central role for Georgia than he would do for Napoli. But he has a player in great form in front of him in George Mikotadze, who has been scoring goals for Metz after it didn't quite work out at Ajax initially. And so they do have players that can do some damage. And I think it's going to be about that supporting cast playing their roles as they did against Greece in that playoff, because that was a real slog. They had to really dig deep to do it. But the goalkeeper, Mamardashvili, has been brilliant for Valencia for a long time now. So you need a good goalkeeper. They've got some of the raw ingredients, but it's a big test.
I think that's the interesting thing. There are not many well-kept secrets in European football nowadays. But as you say, Nick, a lot of people will be a little bit blindsided by Georgia. And if you're looking at players who might get big moves off the back of this tournament, I think Mikotadze and Mamardashvili are two really good candidates.